help with writing resumes and providing career coaching. We have some really good deals right now. You can go over to theadvantageisyours.com to take advantage of 50% off resume packages using the code back to work, as well as affordable monthly subscriptions for career coaching. And last but not least, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter at the Deamer Group or at the ADV is yours on all social media platforms. So that's it. Danette, any questions?
Yes, you did have questions. I just, there's a lag, like a minute, not a minute, but maybe about 40 seconds between Facebook. So it didn't make sense to interrupt you because you had already moved on to another topic. So
Okay.
I have them here for you, okay?
Okay.
So the first question I have is, which industries do you think are hiring most right now?
Hmm. So, healthcare industry, of course, is hiring a lot of people. So if there's any way that you can get into that industry or transfer your skills into healthcare, that is going to be huge. You do have like those delivery services like Amazon, that are huge right now because people are shopping, but they're deciding to shop online versus shopping in stores. So we are seeing some increases in retail, but it's like Amazon, Walmart, places like that, the big box stores where people are limiting their contact with others. Other than that, we're seeing like steady employment in industries that were less affected by COVID. So think engineering, um, the IT field, and then some nonprofits that would be considered essential are still hiring.
So this is my question, piggybacking off of that one, and I think that question was from Rhonda. I'm not sure. Um, what about industries that have seen decline?
Yeah, so those industries that have seen declines are going to come back someday. The
Mm-hmm.
question is when. And so I probably wouldn't push someone in the direction of the travel industry right now because travel is probably going to be one of the slower industries to come back. Um, but they will come back. And I would keep an eye on how some of these companies are beginning to pivot. For example, everyone was talking about Airbnb and how that seemed like it was crashing and burning, and then suddenly it became the way that people were still traveling,
Mm-hmm.
was to do Airbnb. So keep an eye on how they continue to transform the way that they're delivering services as we continue to go through this crisis.
And this is another one of mine, just because of that. So of individuals just recently joined our group who are hospitality and tourism students, adults, in a very prestigious and popular program here in Maryland. And I just spoke to some of them earlier this week, and another group member of ours did a presentation for a large group of them, and they are now considering pivots. Um,
Hmm.
do you have clients who may have come from travel and tourism and are trying to figure out what they're going to do? Now, this is different because a lot of them, some of them have already been working in that industry and have gone to school for the
Hmm.
credential and the for the paper. Others have not, but I think that there are probably ways that they can pivot. Have you had any clients coming to you like that?
I have. So typically, what we do is take a really hard look at what skills they have, and then we brainstorm creative ways that they can apply those skills in a different setting. There is no, natural, if you're in hospitality, you should go to this industry.
Mm,
For everybody, it's different,
I
and
see.
sometimes it draws on volunteer experiences. It draws on things that you maybe did earlier in your career. For example, if someone, I spoke with one woman, she was doing sales in the
Hmm.
hospitality space. And I'm like, well, you're a salesperson. You
Mhm.
probably sell anything that you're passionate
Mhm.
about. And so we started looking at different sales positions that could potentially work for her.
Mhm.
So my recommendation is to do a skills evaluation and then maybe, using the power of the internet,
Mhm.
figure out what other positions um, rely on those types of skills as well.
Thank you. All right. So this is the
Mhm.
next question, and it says, so you recommend a little safe humor during the interview process to break the ice, and I guess that's more of a statement with a question mark
Yes.
on it.
Yes, a little safe humor is fine. Don't go overboard. But getting someone to chuckle a little bit will score you some points in the interview.
Love it. Are career changers more likely to get ghosted because they only have transferable skills and not direct experience in the role or industry?
Not necessarily. It really depends on the likability factor and how well you make yourself stand out. Employers are getting super creative about who they're hiring,
Mm-hmm.
and they're actually excited because they're getting people who either have the skills that they're looking for or are coming with a different set of skills that they didn't get to consider before. So that's exciting to them. So it really just comes down to how well you connect with
Mm-hmm.
that hiring manager during the interview.
Yeah. This is funny because I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, I believe there was a time where you could just you could get a job on what was on your paper,
Hmm.
based on that resume, what you've done in the past. And now you really need to demonstrate that you have these soft skills in the interview process, I've been a hiring manager. I'm dating myself, but shoot, 20 years now, 19 years now. Okay.
Hmm.
And there was a time when we would look at a resume and we'd say, I want her. Like you just looked at the resume, whether it was the school or where they worked or what they did. And, we went in kind of with roles, kind of already, biased toward that person. And then the person got on the job and you realize that there was a whole lot they weren't able to do or learn, because
Yeah.
we expect people to be trainable. And so, even as I recruited for years as a hiring manager, not as a recruiter, the way I analyzed or evaluated a candidate has changed. But now it seemed, and it was
Hmm.
so difficult for us to tap into those soft skills. So we were thinking about, okay, we're going to have a group interview. We're going to do this. We're going to have conversation. We're going to take them to lunch. We're going to do all this stuff to figure out the soft skill, right? Before we got them in there.
Yes.
And now it seems like you have to work that so much just to get through the interview process. So maybe a little less work for hiring managers, old school hiring managers like me.
Yeah. Culture fit and personality fit are becoming, in some cases, more important than qualifications.
Yeah, yeah.
I have seen plenty of hiring managers take the less qualified person because
Hmm.
they felt they were a better fit
Yep.
for the company. So I tell people, you have to be qualified. You have to have, at least the major things that they need in order to do the job. But if you can win them over with your personality, I've seen lots of people who just have great charisma who get
Yep.
jobs left and
Hmm.
right, which is difficult for people who maybe, they don't feel like their personality shines in that way. So we just find different ways that we can coach people through how to have those conversations and get through the interview in a positive way and make those connections.
Good, good, good. Yeah. What about this? Now, this is my question now. We have more from the group, but this is mine. We could probably talk forever on camera. They told me I need to do a podcast. Um,
Yes.
so, what about not this new thing, but one of the things we say in the group is uh, everyone doesn't need education. And everyone doesn't need to go back and get multiple degrees and certifications. This now, as I say this, I have two master's degrees, and I'm one class away from a third and a bachelor's degree, right? But and a whole lot of debt, okay? But we don't want anybody in that position, right?
Right.
So what about this new thing that we've heard, like Google doesn't need degrees anymore? And have you seen this playing out in your with your clients?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Listen up, guys.
I'm similar to you. I have two bachelor's degrees, a master's degree, and I'm ABD on my doctorate, and a lot of debt to go along with it as well. And there are certainly lessons that I take from that that I apply in my career,
Hmm.
but you don't have to have a degree to own a business or run
Yeah.
a business or to recruit. You just have to be really, really good at it. Again, I don't want to speak against
Hmm.
education
Yeah.
because it is one of the things that makes me different in my approach to recruiting, but
Mm.
it's not a requirement. One thing that I know in my studies, because we study the world of work and business
I love to
psychology,
hear that.
we anticipated that the world was going to start requiring higher levels of education,
Mm.
that the bachelor's degree requirement was going to be
Mm.
replaced with a master's degree
Yeah.
requirement. We got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
The
Nope.
complete opposite happened.
Mm-hmm.
Employers shifted to whether or not you had practical experience. So you can graduate and have, a bunch of degrees and no work experience, and it will serve you no purpose.
Yes.
So one thing that we have been encouraging students to do while they're working on their bachelor's degree is to do internships, volunteer, find ways to get practical experience because that is what's going to get them the job once they graduate. The degree itself won't get it. Now, some jobs do require a bachelor's degree, but we view it more so as checking the box. It
Mm-hmm.
used to be you graduated with a degree and you walked right into a
Into a
job
position.
in
Yes.
that field. If you went
Mm.
and got a degree in accounting, you had an accounting job waiting for you.
Yep.
Now, if you get a degree in accounting, if you don't have any accounting experience, good luck. So
Yes.
it is important to get some practical experience. That said, I encourage people, volunteering is a good way
It
to
is.
get some experience in doing something. And you don't have to do it, like a 40-hour work week. You may do it like once a month. You volunteer to do something, but it counts as experience. It may get you, some experience using a certain database, a software that you don't have any experience in. Maybe it's a certain skill set that you want to learn. They don't care if you did it for money or for free. They just care that you have that experience.
Yeah. So I spoke with a Google recruiter who's going to come in the group soon. And she's an actual dedicated, like at Google, not one of
Mhm.
the kind of contract, do other organizations. And one thing she said, I asked her about this, is now as she's reviewing candidates, she doesn't care what school they come from. Now, that's a shift for Google. That's one.
Mhm.
Then the other thing is they even take real world experience now as opposed, so they have a scale, and I've had one before in other work where X amount of real world experience equals 2 years of college,
Yep.
and they use that. And so that is how that degree requirement is, slowly going away at Google. And I love that that is happening because I feel like it'll open the door up for more people. But if you don't have any experience, it doesn't open the door. It doesn't open that door up. It just maybe a little crack.
Mhm.
So I do also think that volunteer work, internships, that's what got me everything. And we talking about
Mhm.
years ago, but it was that working and doing volunteer work. So,
Mhm.
all right. How long should you wait to follow up with the hiring manager after the interview and the thank you letter was sent? And should we always follow up?
So following up is your way of saying to the hiring manager that you want that job.
Mm,
Remember, one of the reasons I said that hiring managers ghost is because they think you don't care. So if you leave the interview and they never hear from you, even if they're having a delayed process, they start assuming you don't care about the job and they don't care either. So they may ghost you. And you
mhm,
could be waiting for a phone call or an email. The appropriate length of time is really going to depend on how quickly their process is going, which is why I recommend setting expectations during the interview of what the next step looks like.
Mhm.
Some are hiring quickly and they'll tell you, oh, I plan to have a decision to you by next week. And in other cases, it's a slow process and they'll tell you up front, it's going to be a month and a half before we get back to
Yeah.
you. And so there's no point in you sending them an email every week if they know that it's going to take a month before they get to the next stage. So check in with them and find out where things stand and how quickly they plan to fill the position, and that will tell you how aggressive you need to be in following up.
All right. That's the last question I have for the group. Thank you for that, Shannon. I have a lot of comments, and I don't think you're in our group, but you need to join so you can read these comments.
Okay. I will.
So I'm going to go to my questions, guys. If you know, I'm going to go to my first two, and then I'll come back to the chat and see if I have any questions from you before I answer before I ask my final question. So I'm going to go ahead with my first question, Shannon. Um, and it is CDPD's mission is to increase marginalized and BIPOC groups access to employment opportunities and representation in the workforce by providing our members with free training, mentorship, and other resources. And CDPD was created in response to record unemployment and underemployment rates stemming from COVID-19. Would you be able to tell us if you have ever been marginalized? Keeping in mind, yes, we can marginalize ourselves, but it was specifically to speaking about if you've ever been marginalized by a situation, a person, a group, or anything that you would be willing to share with us.
So as a black woman, yes, I've definitely been marginalized before. Um, and I think that sometimes it's those moments where um, you figure out that certain things just are as they are in the work world, and so
Mm,
you adjust. So for me, my best example is when I left Louisiana, moved to Chicago. Remember, that was one of my minor crises where bad timing, 2008. I decided to move. If anybody remembers 2008, the job market was terrible at the time. And I was shifting from state employment to looking for a corporate job. At the time, my hair, I had dreadlocks down my
mm,
back. I cut my hair off because I did not think that as a black woman with dreadlocks that I was going to be able to get a corporate job. Um, so now I celebrate my hair, but I'm also very aware that it's different for me because I own my own business, and it's kind of like I own the business and my
mm,
hair is how it is. So, but I do celebrate. I wear my natural afro all the time, or twist my hair up, or wear braids, which fortunately the world has improved in the
mm,
12 years since I had the big chop.
mm,
Um, but it's situations like that where you find yourself altering your appearance. You find
mm.
yourself altering the way that you talk. I
Yeah,
don't know if anyone picked up on it. I am originally from New Orleans. Most people tell me they cannot hear a New Orleans accent at all. I
I
worked
don't. Not
really
at all.
hard.
Mm,
Yeah, I worked really hard to turn that off. Now, there are certain moments when it comes out again, but, but for the most part, yes, I found myself trying to fit in because I felt myself being a part of a marginalized population, and I wanted to increase my chances of success as much as possible. And that
mm.
included changing the way I talk, changing the way I dress, and changing the way that I wear my hair.
Yeah, I can relate. I had locks for 10 years up until this pandemic, and I went a little crazy and tried to pick them out and cut them out. Um, yeah, I had a lot of free time, right? But for years, I knew that if I wanted to wear my natural, there was a beginning of my career where I wore a lot of weaves and weaves that could look very natural, not like the young ladies wear today, which don't look natural at all.
Right.
And I was very deliberate in I didn't want to be in corporate America. because I wanted to maintain some of myself. But still, even in nonprofit and in government environments, because I was always managing level, high manager,
Mhm.
not middle manager, leadership. I knew that I couldn't, bust in there with, my locks or bust in there. So,
Yeah.
um, then I also knew that I needed to maintain a certain weight. And so I was very, I mean, not that I shouldn't just let myself go, but I was very conscious of that early in my career. So I was at
Mhm.
the gym 5 a.m. I used to open
Mhm.
the gym with the cleaning people because I knew that I needed to look a certain way in order to be accepted. I'm a tall woman, so there's just a lot of things. And of course, the way I speak. So yeah, I do agree that we find ways to get around it, but sometimes that means a lot of compromise of who and what we are. I asked everyone the question because I want our members to know that in spite of one of our presenters being marginalized at some point in their life, that hey, now look at Miss Deamer, right? She owns this successful business, right? And she took that marginalization, she turned it on its ear, and she still has success. And if she could do that, any one of us could do that if we feel marginalized right now. So that's why I asked the question. Then my
Mhm.
second question is my favorite, and it is if you could go back and tap yourself on the shoulder before you ever left New Orleans, okay? What would you tell yourself, Shannon, about that you would want that Shannon to know now about your career journey?
Yeah. Don't play it safe.
Mm,
Um, be courageous, take risks,
mm,
and then even when bad things happen, pivot, figure it out. You will figure it out,
mm,
and you just kind of do a risk assessment.
mm,
Um, I ask myself now, and I wish I could have told myself that then. Look at every situation and think to yourself, what's the worst that could happen?
mm.
And if the worst happens, what would you do about it? Right?
Yeah.
Um, and if you have a plan, if you have a strategy for if the worst thing happened, then do it.
All
Do
right.
it.
I love
When
it.
I started this business, when I was pregnant and jobless,
Mm,
um, I kept thinking to myself, what's the worst thing that could happen? The worst thing
mm,
that could happen is it could completely fail. I could get no clients and no income. And then I just have to go get a job. And
mm-hmm.
I know how to get a job
All right
because,
now.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's the worst thing that could happen, and it was going to be all right. So I knew that it was okay to take that risk. So I
Mm.
encourage other people to do that. Evaluate it. Try it. You may find something that you're very passionate about. Take those risks.
I love it, guys. I hope you're listening to that. You will see these words posted again. I post everything you guys say. So I will re listen to this. I've been posting up some of your quotes as you were talking earlier. But I will listen to this again and then I will post up some of the quotes and I will post those up just to reinforce them for our members. And then my final question, I don't have anything in the group that's a question. I have comments. Um, Praising you. I don't hear an accent at all, too, someone has said. Um, so my final question is if our listeners could only walk away with one thing today, what would you want them to? What would their takeaway be? What would you want that takeaway to be?
It's all about connection.
Mm,
And most of us know how to do that naturally. You've made friends, you've grown your network one way or another in your life. The same thing applies in the work world. It's not new. It's not different. We act like it's some, you know, big different thing that, is scary and, like it's a person. It's a person that you are interviewing with. The same things apply. The same way that you would connect with them if they were just someone that you were meeting at an event, it's the same way that you connect with them through an interview so that you can make sure you don't get ghosted and you stay connected to them.
wow, I love it. I really love it. And I thank you. I appreciate you, Shannon, for giving us time
My
today.
pleasure.
I have posted almost all of your contact information except the at the Deamer Group and the at AD Advise yours. So I will post that. Anyone who registered for the presentation is going to get all your contact information. I'm also going to post this package you had currently offering 50% off of resume packages with the code. I'll do all of that, guys, soon. I have a class that I'm teaching in 6 minutes. So I thank you, Miss Deemer.
That.
I appreciate you, and you know you are welcome to come back anytime you like. Please consider joining our group. Our members would love to tap you there, even if you just come visit to see the praise that you received for this presentation today. All right?
My pleasure. Thank you guys so much
All
for
right,
listening.
then.
Thanks, Annette.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.